Welcome to what if we had the four strongest countries in Europe go to war? I think it takes 3 countries to help them. We have Germany in the red, Russia in the green, France in the blue, and the United Kingdom in the purple. Let's see what happens. First off, we have Bulgaria obviously invading Greece because they wanted Macedonia in the first place. That's the only reason why they're on the Central Towers. But the Ottomans also actually want some land. Despite the original invasion of Greece, though, Bulgaria looked pretty strong until they realized that they're being invaded by Romania. Essentially, on the Balkan front, things weren't going to go well for Bulgaria. They're dealing with literally everyone else. Like, they're dealing with the UK and Russia. Like, France is focused on Austria-Hungary right now, which is where we'll be looking next. In the Bosnian front. France and Montenegro is forced to fight Serbia. They can push more easily into Bosnia. It's essentially, but also in the Alps, we have Italian forces making major gains against the weaker Austrian forces. French forces are mainly focused on Austria-Hungary for now. Obviously, there are a total of 12 countries actually 16 countries in this war. Nothing happens on the main Russian front. Because Central Towers, Switzerland, and Austria-Hungary just don't have the strength to push into Russia right now. And neither does Russia to push into Germany and Austria-Hungary. So mostly the action is in Bulgaria. Or literally in just a matter of weeks, Bulgaria is already being defeated. Bulgaria's capital is going to fall soon. And British forces managed to make a landing east of Thessaloniki, nearly cutting off Bulgarian forces. Things already aren't going well for the Neo-Central Powers, or the Central Towers at this point. Just to make it even worse, we have the British invading now. The British and Greek forces managed to push up against Bulgaria, and the Ottomans actually sent some soldiers to help, which stops an advance further east, mostly for the British. But for the Romanians and Serbians, they can't really afford to stop them entirely. So they have to give up land to Bulgaria. Austria-Hungary makes a very half-hearted attempt at invading Serbia, which surprisingly goes well because they have almost nothing there defending their capital. Romania decides to go for glory now. I thought they're going to take out Austria-Hungary. Austria didn't have very much. Onto the Transylvania region, which Romania wants to capture. Of course, Romania sees success over the first months. First, 3 or 4 months, the United States surround Austro-Hungarian forces and make them surrender. But then Bulgaria actually decides, let's actually try to fight this war. And Bulgaria fights against Romania. And North trying to save Austria-Hungary from inevitable defeat. Not inevitable, but, they'll most likely lose. Romania now seeing that their Black Sea ports are being attacked by Bulgarians. Romanians can't focus on Austria-Hungary, which leads to a domino effect. Whenever they focus on someone, the other guy will just attack them. At the same time, those Serbian forces actually make an attempt to hold on to my communication with Russia by attacking near where the Romanians were attacking. Creates a very strong front. With Russian forces now beginning to push westward too. And their holdouts are in the northeast. Russia-Hungary is essentially just beginning to see a lot of losses. And Russia-Hungary is losing on all fronts. They've gained some land in North Serbia, but that's really it. Obviously. Then the Bulgarians attempt to attack against Serbia. Since they have weakened their forces, Bulgaria actually necessarily take their capital. That is then stopped. British forces continue their push. Greek and British soldiers make a landing in Anatolia. And British soldiers begin a push. Push from Palestine, which is off the map. The British want to attack the Ottomans, so it's hostile to knock them out. Then out of the German fleet. Now, I never really focus on naval warfare, so this is the debut of naval warfare on this channel. Naval warfare is actually going to be pretty important, because, it'll be fun to look at. Essentially, we have the German fleet controlling almost all the water north of the Netherlands. British and French fleets are essentially battling. They're battling in the Channel. But the French actually have a lot of military on the western part of the Channel. Areas of British naval superiority are very limited. Outside of the areas around Scotland. Basically everywhere else is not much. And the French superiority is even less. It's just out. Most to go sustain essentially. But they also have the only ones in the Mediterranean because of Italy. Actually, that's something in the Mediterranean that is an advantage. Just not Malta. They don't have full new superiority around Greece. They have almost full superiority in the Adriatic. It's around here. And Russia's new superiority is literally only in the Black Sea at this point. The superiority most of the northern Black Sea. The Ottomans to actually get those Ottomans to stop those. Eventually, the Russians want new superiority in the east of the Black Sea so they can send soldiers over here. Because the Ottomans wouldn't want to lose this land. Sometimes British soldiers attempt their great attack on the Dardanelles, Gallipoli, which actually this time I also failed, I think, because didn't it fail in real life? I think they got pretty close to being successful. They're forced back into a tiny corner. At the same time, the Ottomans attempt to push back the British and Greeks, which goes pretty well. And now the Bulgarians are attempting to regain land, which goes fairly successfully. They almost completely pushed their enemy outside of the area. At the same time, the British and French navies has begun to clash. Well, then, there is essentially just a team. Benelux now. Why did I make this team? Because these are the guys who essentially are going to be invaded from all three of the giant, enormous enemies. First off, we have the British. They actually landed in northern France, and then they invaded Belgium. Attempted to invade Belgium. The French occupy Luxembourg. And also occupy parts of Belgium. As the Germans now make their own attacks. Essentially, the Netherlands is then invaded. Now we have a large occupation of Russia. Finally, for the first time, there's a major invasion of one of the major powers. The major powers have finally been invaded. So, this is at the same time the British invading France. Two of them are being invaded, France and Russia. France by the UK and Russia by Germany. Well, but this doesn't go very far as they only push north. And they push north, they almost managed to capture Riga. We have Germans capturing things. The Bulgarian team, the Bulgarians and the Ottomans have managed to push back up to the Romanian border in certain spots, and up to the Serbian border in one spot. This is good. So yes, essentially things aren't going too well for the British team. They haven't been gaining much. Same time though, the Belgium team actually has a few new members. One of those members is I actually want to just be essentially a large revolution in Germany. I'm kidding. That wouldn't happen yet. Keyword yet. Not under the Belgium and the Netherlands, they have some empires, so yes, essentially they begin to push back. France has their own stuff to really deal with right now. Speaking of stuff to deal with, they have to deal with Austria-Hungary, who is currently actually starting to push back and be useful. They completely push Italy out of Austria-Hungary. And Austria now proceeds to knock the Italy out of Italy. Knock Italy out of Italy by simply trying to capture Venice. The Italians finally go from their naps shortly after Venice falls. Surprisingly, the Austrians have actually managed to do something successful, and they'll continue to do stuff that's successful. Like, occupy this part of Poland. And then they'll actually continue. At the same time, though, the Germans make their own attack further north. They link up with the Austro-Hungarians. They're essentially told the Austro-Hungarians to go focus on Serbia as they can easily try to defeat them. Germany's got Russia. This turns out to be not true, And shortly after, Austro-Hungarian soldiers begin to die out their involvement in the offensive stalls. All that against Russia. Essentially now it's a giant 5-team war and nothing is really going on. Ordered with Austro-Hungary having some freed up troops, they begin the next phase of the attack heading into 1916. Austria-Hungary begins its attacks against Romania. They push back, staying with Serbia, but most successfully since Serbia is actually quite a lot weaker. And now Serbia is being fully invaded. At the same time, Bulgaria actually starts their pushback against Serbian soldiers in the east, creating a large domino effect. You can see the British invade Serbia. Now that the Russians are really at their throats, because of this. Groups attempt to occupy Macedonia. Seeing this, Russia knows that they have to try to fight back, so Russia hence sends hundreds of thousands. Russia sends about 150,000 soldiers to Serbia. The British occupy all of Macedonia before this can happen. At the same time, Austria-Hungary essentially just does this. They actually start to push back the French. They legally push the French out of Austria-Hungary. Great achievement. At the same time, though, their offensive in Serbia is essentially halted, except for against the French and Montenegrin forces. So against this net now, who do you think is winning? Well, both Germany and Russia are winning the most. France doesn't have any occupied land anymore, except for Luxembourg, which doesn't really count. It's hardly anything. That's about to change. Because France is mad over the fact that the Spanish made a small incursion into France. And then that turned into a bigger incursion. Which then turned into a full-on invasion. Into the entirety of France. Somehow the Spanish actually captured Bordeaux. At the same time, the British also make a landing, another landing in France. This seems to be going well, right? Well, until the French realize the British have overstretched themselves, and they begin to push them back. At the same time, Belgian forces cross into France and attack the British. Belgians and French decide to make a peace treaty, essentially saying, hey, you want to just team up on the British? Yeah, sure, I guess. So this is essentially how the war will continue now. This was essentially the final straw for British, is now that there's still another 14 battle, but now during they really had to focus on the Western Front. Germans decided that they would actually try to fight. Germans continued their attacks in the Netherlands, which goes sort of successful. They captured most of the northern parts of the Netherlands, even taking their capital for now. For like 5 minutes. Not like 5 minutes, but they take it for a while. At the same time, the Germans also launched their next offensive against Russia. Then this time the Austro-Hungarians decide to help. Romania literally can't do much because they have to deal with Bulgaria too now. So essentially, Russian forces for the west and Poland begin their retreat. They decide to hold on to Warsaw. But Warsaw is like all the way over here. The problem is that the Germans are almost all the way over here. Finally, the Russian forces are inevitably surrounded. At this point, Russia's like, okay, can we have peace, please? Like, I'm losing a lot of land. Germany denies. Basically saying we can win this. Just before Russia surrenders. Same time though in Bulgaria, the British have continued their attacks. They focus on the Balkan front now. The British and the French are kind of at each other's throats because of the recent invasions, so the British and the Greeks invade Albania. Yeah, this trial isn't going to go too well. The French actually need Albania to fight in the war, so essentially they say, we'll help Albania now. At the same time, Russian forces actually make an attempt after Sofia, Bulgaria. Now, Sofia's like, you know, I'll just put Bulgaria's capital, and this is Serbia's capital. Here we have Romania's capital. Now, just for showing. What these countries' capitals are. So if you get the sense of what they're trying to get to. Bulgaria's capital was completely surrounded on all sides. Now Bulgaria really needs to hold on to its capital. Romania continues its attacks against Bulgaria. It's desperate. Desperate's trying to defend. Then, Bulgarian forces continuously get surrounded by Romanian forces. Romanian and Russian forces have defeated Bulgaria. British and Russians begin to fight. Inevitably, the Russians get to the capital first. They take the city, and with it, the entire Sofia pocket surrenders shortly after. The Ottomans send about 300,000 soldiers against Romania. This does something. Same time though, the Russians are sending about 1 million down here. That started in 1917. The Russians have reached the sea in Bulgaria. Russians reached the Aegean Sea, surprisingly. At the same time, Greek forces make a bigger landing in the Ottoman Empire, just because they wanted to. Also because the Ottomans were just a thought of a brink of collapse. The Ottomans don't want to collapse. So essentially, by this point, the British have occupied almost all of Syria and Iraq. All Syria and Iraq have been occupied. British now are winning by a lot. That the Germans decide to make their own plan to fight the British. Since the Germans can't fight the British directly right now, because of France and Russia, they decided to go through France's team. Well, Germany and Britain decided to make a secret agreement, basically saying, let's both invade France. Okay. So the British made a landing in Brittany. Which, arguably, was a good idea. The French didn't have any defenses there. Now we'll just continue to show the German invasions. Well, the Germans need a dash for the sea. But then they turned south. When the new German forces pushing west aren't enough to take out the French. Instantly, some French soldiers managed to get away. Then at the same time now, with the British invading the Netherlands. The British invaded the entire Netherlands in like a day. The British also occupied northern Belgium, according to the secret agreement, and the area around Calais. The Germans take everything else. At this point, though, the Germans and the British essentially say, why don't we just team up? We can easily make a good team. Well, so basically, from now on, the Germans and British are on the same team. Which essentially just creates a large powerhouse. Eventually, the British return land to Bulgaria. So now we only have 3 teams left. Can't say for bad news. You're kind of losing a lot. I was spearhead through the country. Germans attack from Alsace-Lorraine. They decided that essentially this was the largest attack against French fortifications. This is the problem with French forces, is that they just weren't ready for this whole invasion thing. The British liked the German plan. The British attempted to take Normandy, but they couldn't. French forces by now are getting weakened. To hold on the Seine. Managed to push the Germans up around the Seine. During the eastern advance was the problem. The French decided to retreat a lot of their forces for the north. Down along the Seine. But then they were able to use the newly just freed up forces to push the Germans back along the east. They had managed to stop a total defeat. But the French actually had some land in the north of the Seine. They decided to use it to push the Germans back along the Seine. The plan worked until the Germans fought back. Push right back up along the Seine. Listen all the way. But the French now had less forces that they needed. The French were able to spare enough forces to go on a major attack against Spain. The attack wasn't very big, only had about 500,000 French soldiers, but it was working for the time being. It had slowed down the Spanish more than enough. The Spanish weren't getting any further. And as a response, Catalonia declares independence. Which soon saw it join the French team. This was France's essential comeback. The comeback against Spain. Now Catalonia was being invaded. Despite Catalonia going against it, Spain actually went on their own team for now. Essentially said, we don't need Britain. And as a response, they also invaded Portugal. The Spanish forces invaded Portugal. The British and Germans were shocked. With an defense, North Africa had revolted against Spain. This was quickly dealt with. At the same time, actually, Spanish invasion of Portugal isn't going to end well for Portugal. But finally, the British and German soldiers arrive, and they decide to hold along this defensive line for now. At the same time, the French army completely pushes the Spanish out of France now. And we just then have Catalonia finally managing a large offensive. Meanwhile, there was large areas of Spain that were revolting, mainly in the south. Support for the war was at an all-time low. They created their own country and attempted to get peace. At the same time, they also had the area in Galicia. This was a full-on civil war in Spain. It was a four-sided war in the Iberian Peninsula. The Spanish made a large attack in the center, essentially pushing back the new rebellion, who didn't have a lot of experience when it came to military. For a couple of weeks, the Spanish had a very good chance of winning. Despite these early successes, the Spanish eventually were stopped. At the same time, they also managed to push through the British and German defensive line in Portugal. They forced to evacuate Old Porto, then north, and retreat towards the south. The Spanish are essentially being halted. But then the rebel group actually starts to gain momentum. Almost entirely pushed back the Spanish. In Galicia, they begin a push for Madrid. In Portugal, basically the same thing happens. So they begin a giant pushback in the central part of the front, which is great success. In Portugal, they don't want to invade Spain, they just want to push Spain back out of their country. Eventually, with Spain gone, almost entirely abandoning Portugal at this point. Spain should surrender now, right? Nope. Spain made a desperate attack against the rebels. And they should push back behind them. They actually got a pretty large area. A section of land. They almost got to the sea. Until these guys essentially realized, just pull your forces back further east, that you have a shorter front line, and you can send up some of those soldiers west. And at the same time, there was actually a giant force that was pushing on Madrid, which inevitably captured Madrid, the Spanish capital, which we'll just now see. Eventually, Portugal attempted to get as much land as possible in the peace treaty before Spain could surrender. The next following weeks, by March of 1918, the front line in Europe was looking pretty decent. Nothing had really changed, but there was some change. The Bulgarian offensive linked up and surrounded Russian forces, which we then just saw those forces surrendering, and the Russians completely evacuated Bulgaria and even Serbia. Also, the French lose Albania and Montenegro due to the lack of support. Although Spain is now losing essential lands. They need to fight the war. The Spanish army in shambles now. there was no hope for the old Spanish government. As about half of the southern Angles surrendered to France, the others surrendered to the British. At the same time, though, the Germans make a breakthrough along the Seine. They push east of Paris, and then they actually capture Paris. They link up with the British south of Cherbourg, which is now surrounded. France is essentially losing what they need to fight the war. But the new Spanish government has begun to lose land to Portugal. As the French support the creation of Catalonia. And several other puppet states under their control. The British only want Galicia. Essentially, this was the new map. So yeah, so basically Spain is just completely destroyed. But Italy has just now been invaded again. Austrians push up to the Arno River. Essentially, Italian forces are halted along the Arno River. Finally, Italy has a stable defense. At this point, Italy sees itself as split into two. And the southern part claims itself as the new Rome, while the northern part fully surrenders, moves and lays down its arms. The new Rome wants to expand. These guys aren't too strong, but they manage to push the Austrians back slightly. On the Arno River. And now France needs to stop them. The Romans are going to be too strong. This area up here becomes the region of Piedmont, which becomes a Roman satellite state. Now we're almost stopped at this point. I own almost all of Italy from the entire Italian peninsula. Since the Italian peninsula stands up to about here, actually, yeah, it stands up to start out there, but still they don't almost all of it. They own the area of Piedmont. Piedmont is important to them. At the same time, though, we have Russia essentially collapsing. Why? Well, because, why wouldn't they? We have a large revolution occurring in Russia. Like, a lot of Russians are going against the government. These German forces occupy almost all of the western regions of the country. The country is then occupied by Germany, and are then collected into puppet states. Romania becomes a puppet state of Germany in the peace treaty. And I feel like this video is going to go a little bit long, so I'm actually going to split it into several parts. That's gonna be for part 1 of our 1500 U special. Bye-bye.